In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with William, and the Word was William. 400 years after his death, we still speak his language without knowing it. Every time we say, break the ice, or call someone heart of gold, we whisper his ghost into existence. The man who gave us jealousy and ambition, who taught us that tomorrow creeps in its petty pace, remains the most mysterious figure in all of literature. Picture this: a glover's son from Stratford-upon-Avon, born in 1564 when plague swept through England like a scythe through wheat. His father, John, worked leather with calloused hands, shaping animal hide into something useful. Young William watched those hands transform the raw into the refined. Perhaps this is where he learned his first lesson about creation. The boy who would become the voice of kings and fools breathed air thick with superstition. Witches burned at stakes. The earth stood still while sun and planets danced around it. Elizabeth ruled with an iron fist wrapped in silk gloves. In this world of rigid hierarchy and divine right, a merchant's son dared to imagine himself into royalty. At 18, he marries Anne Hathaway, 8 years his senior and already carrying his child. The bells of Holy Trinity Church ring out their union while neighbours whisper. In those days, such arrangements spoke of necessity, not romance. Yet from this practical beginning, he would write the most beautiful love poetry ever penned. Somewhere between 1585 and 1592, William Shakespeare vanishes from historical record. These are the lost years, the dark matter of literary biography. Some say he fled Stratford after poaching deer. Others imagine him as a schoolmaster teaching Latin to restless boys. The truth dissolves like morning mist, leaving only questions that echo through centuries. London in the 1590s pulses with possibility and peril. The Thames runs brown with sewage and commerce. Bear-baiting and public executions draw crowds hungry for blood and spectacle. Into this chaos steps a country stranger with ink-stained fingers and impossible dreams. The city that would make him also threatens to devour him. The plague closes theatres regularly, sending actors into exile like wandering minstrels. When death stalks the streets, art becomes both luxury and necessity. Shakespeare learns to write for survival, crafting words that must compete with the drama of mortality itself. Every performance might be the last. Watch him in the Globe Theatre, that wooden O where groundlings press close to the stage. Their breath fogs the winter air. Their cheers and jeers shape each performance. Here, democracy lives through drama. A carpenter's apprentice stands beside a silk-clad merchant, both lost in the same tragic spell. Shakespeare writes not for the court, but for the breathing, sweating mass of humanity. His contemporaries, Marlowe, Johnson, Webster, write with scholarly precision, their classical educations gleaming like polished armour. Shakespeare, with his small Latin and less Greek, steals from every source imaginable. Italian novellas, classical historians, street ballads, his own imagination, he transforms theft into alchemy. The recurring obsession with legitimacy haunts his work. Bastards and usurpers populate his plays like guilty conscience made flesh. Edmund schemes in King Lear. Claudius murders his brother in Hamlet. Perhaps the glover's son who dared claim the title of gentleman understood the weight of questionable authority. Every crown sits uneasily on its wearer's head. His women, Cleopatra, Lady Macbeth, Rosalind, burn with intelligence and desire. In an age when women couldn't act on stage, boy actors channeled these fierce feminine spirits. The irony cuts deep, male voices speaking female truth, revealing the arbitrary nature of gender itself. Cross-dressing becomes a metaphor for the fluidity of identity. Hamlet emerges from his pen like a fever dream of doubt and introspection. The melancholy prince embodies the Renaissance mind in crisis, caught between medieval certainty and modern skepticism. To be or not to be becomes the question that defines not just the character, but the age itself. In Hamlet's hesitation, we recognize our own paralysis. The Essex Rebellion of 1601 nearly destroys him. The conspirators pay his company to perform Richard II before their failed coup. The play about deposing a king becomes evidence of treason. Shakespeare's art proves too powerful, too dangerous for comfort. Words carry the weight of swords. His sonnets, published in 1609, reveal the private man behind the public playwright. The mysterious dark lady and the fair youth become literature's most enduring romantic puzzles. These poems speak of love that transcends gender, of beauty that defies convention, of time that devours all things. In 154 sonnets, he maps the geography of the human heart. The King's Men, his theatre company, enjoys royal patronage under James I. Shakespeare writes Macbeth to flatter the Scottish king, weaving in witches and prophecies that echo James's own obsessions. Art bends to power, but power also bends to art. Even kings must pay tribute to the playwright's imagination. His late plays, The Tempest, The Winter's Tale, shimmer with forgiveness and reconciliation. Prospero breaks his magic staff. Leontes begs pardon for his jealous madness. The aging playwright seems to be working towards some personal peace, some private absolution. Forgiveness becomes the final act of wisdom. The Stratford to which he returns in 1613 bears little resemblance to the town he left. He is now William Shakespeare, gentleman, owner of the second largest house in town. The glover's son has transformed himself through words alone, the ultimate act of literary alchemy. Success tastes of both triumph and loss. His death in 1616 passes with little fanfare. No state funeral, no public mourning. The man who gave voice to kings and beggars dies quietly in his hometown, leaving behind a wife, 2 daughters, and the second-best bed. The mundane details mock the cosmic scope of his imagination. Greatness often departs through the back door. 7 years later, his friends John Heminger and Henry Condell publish the first folio, collecting 36 plays in a single volume. Without their devotion, half of Shakespeare's works would have vanished forever. Macbeth, Julius Caesar, The Tempest, all rescued from oblivion by friendship and commerce. Sometimes love takes the form of good business. The Restoration brings new life to his plays. Actors and audiences rediscover the psychological complexity beneath the Elizabethan surface. Samuel Pepys watches Hamlet and writes in his diary that it is the best play that ever I saw. The resurrection begins, slow but inexorable. Dead playwrights sometimes live more fully than the living. The Romantics claim him as their own. Coleridge sees in him the perfect fusion of imagination and judgment. Hazlitt finds in his characters the full spectrum of human nature. Shakespeare becomes not just a playwright, but a philosopher, a psychologist, a god of creative power. Each age discovers in him what it needs most. Victorian scholars begin the great quest for biographical truth. They comb through parish records, court documents, and property deeds, seeking the man behind the myth. The search proves futile. Shakespeare remains as elusive as smoke, as mysterious as his own Ariel. The harder we look, the more he disappears. The authorship question erupts like a literary virus. Could a glover's son really have written these plays? Candidates emerge: Oxford, Bacon, Marlowe, even Queen Elizabeth herself. The conspiracy theories multiply, each more elaborate than the last, all missing the point entirely. Genius needs no pedigree. Freud discovers in Shakespeare's characters the architecture of the unconscious mind. Hamlet's Oedipal complex, Lear's senile dementia, Othello's sexual paranoia, all become case studies in the new science of psychology. The playwright who knew nothing of the unconscious mapped it with uncanny precision. Art anticipates science by centuries. The 20th century brings global Shakespeare. His plays echo in Japanese no theatre, African ritual drama, and Broadway musicals. West Side Story transforms Romeo and Juliet into urban tragedy. The Globe Theatre rises again on London's South Bank, a phoenix built from original timber and modern dreams. His words travel at the speed of light. Digital technology makes him immortal in ways he never imagined. Searchable databases catalogue every word he wrote. Virtual reality lets audiences walk through Elsinore Castle. AI programs analyse his language patterns, seeking clues to his creative process. The analogue poet becomes digital data. His influence permeates popular culture like oxygen in air. Star Wars echoes Hamlet. The Lion King retells Hamlet. The Matrix quotes Hamlet. The melancholy prince has become the default mode of modern heroism, complex, questioning, eternally torn between thought and action. We are all Hamlet's children now. Modern actors approach his roles like mountain climbers facing Everest. Laurence Olivier's Hamlet defines cinematic Shakespeare. Judi Dench's Cleopatra burns with regal fire. Kenneth Branagh's populist adaptations bring the plays to multiplexes worldwide. Each performance adds another layer to the ever-expanding interpretation. The roles outlive the actors who play them. His linguistic innovation continues to shape English. He invented over 1,900 words, from assassination to zany. His phrases become clichés through overuse, then circle back to profundity. All the world's a stage sounds tired until you hear it spoken by a dying actor. Clichés are just truths worn smooth by repetition. In classrooms worldwide, students encounter Romeo and Juliet as their first taste of literary greatness. The young lover's passion translates across cultures, generations, and belief systems. 14-year-olds in Tokyo and Detroit recognize themselves in the star-crossed teenagers of Verona. First love speaks the same language everywhere. The Shakespeare industry generates billions in revenue. Stratford-upon-Avon survives on tourism built around his memory. The Royal Shakespeare Company employs hundreds. Academic conferences dissect his work with surgical precision. The Glover's Son has become a multinational corporation. Fame is the most successful form of resurrection. His dark vision of political power grows more relevant with each election cycle. Richard III predicts the rise of charismatic sociopaths. Coriolanus explores the tension between democracy and expertise. Julius Caesar warns of the fragility of republican institutions. 400-year-old plays read like tomorrow's headlines. The Thaka Me Too movement re-examines his treatment of women. Is Kate in The Taming of the Shrew empowered or enslaved? Does Portia in The Merchant of Venice transcend her gender constraints or reinforce them? Each generation must answer these questions anew. Great art contains its own contradictions. His theological complexity defies simple categorization. Raised Protestant, he writes with Catholic sympathy. His plays teem with ghosts, witches, and supernatural interventions, yet question the nature of divine justice. He seems to believe in everything and nothing simultaneously. Faith becomes another character in his drama. The environmental movement finds unexpected allies in his nature imagery. His woods teem with life. His storms carry moral weight. His flowers bloom with symbolic meaning. The playwright who wrote of Brave New World understood that humanity's relationship with nature shapes its destiny. Ecology begins with imagination. His treatment of madness anticipates modern psychology. Lear's senility, Hamlet's melancholy, Ophelia's breakdown, all rendered with clinical accuracy centuries before psychiatry existed. He understood that madness often masks deeper truths about the human condition. Sanity and insanity dance together on a knife's edge. The meta-theatrical moments in his plays, the play within Hamlet, the epilogue to The Tempest, remind us that all the world's a stage. Reality becomes performance. Performance becomes reality. The boundaries blur until we can't tell where the play ends and life begins. We are all both actor and audience. His blank verse creates a rhythm that matches the human heartbeat. Iambic pentameter, ba-dum, 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 mimics the pulse of life itself. Actors trained in his meter report that their breathing changes, their walk changes, their very sense of self transforms. Poetry rewrites the body's operating system. The question of his greatest play remains eternally debatable. Hamlet, for its philosophical depth, King Lear, for its cosmic scope, Macbeth for its psychological intensity. Each masterpiece casts its own shadow, each demands its own allegiance. Greatness multiplies rather than diminishes. 4 centuries after his death, Shakespeare remains our contemporary. His characters walk among us, the ambitious politician, the jealous spouse, the idealistic youth, the aging parent. He didn't just write about human nature, he revealed it, mapped it, made it visible to itself. In reading Shakespeare, we don't just encounter great art, we encounter ourselves, reflected in the dark mirror of his imagination, transformed by the alchemy of his words into something larger, deeper, more mysteriously human than we knew we could be.